I want to hear while I'm talking to Tim to set this up, what people want to hear from the conversation with Tim. I don't want this to be about me. I want whatever mission you have here to be satisfied. All right? Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to come around with the mic and randomly call on people, so don't be scared. I just want to know what you guys want to hear from Tim. This is a really great opportunity to kind of get a really personalized interview with Tim. So, what are you here for? Picking on you.
Especially since it's same for everyone else. I want to make it easier. Specific company that you work with.
I know a little bit. What's the difference between MicroVentures and like AngelList or something?
Okay.
Yelp, would that help?
Yeah, and also these guys, I don't know if you noticed, but they have a meet.ps.
What are you interested in hearing today?
I haven't even looked at the agenda. I'm waiting.
So we have Tim Sullivan from MicroVentures here.
Tim Sullivan. Now I want to hear what he has to say. Clearly, that's why I'm here. It's good.
You want to hear what he has to say? All right. Everyone's looking away now. What are you interested in hearing?
Just tips on, if you're going to go try and get funding, what are they looking for?
For any specific type of startup, any industry, any size? All right. What about you guys here up in front? Just here to support? All right, great.
I know that there's a lot of interest, especially around a lot of the new apps. I know MicroVentures is a huge investor in Twitter, and with all that data coming online, how do they see that affecting the trajectory not only of the mobile space, but of integrated web apps as a whole?
Okay, so the effects of the mobile space. What about you?
What was the question?
We just want to make this talk very interactive, so we want all the audience to use the real-time feedback tool that Tim will be watching your feedback in real time. Yeah, the URL for this talk will be meet.ps/Tim. Meet.ps/Tim. So the audience can vote in real time what they like, what they disagree with, if they find something unclear and confusing. So, if you have questions, or if that's too slow and they want the guys to go faster and skip over that boring part. And they'll be watching it. They'll see your feedback in real time.
All right, well, that sounds great. We'll let Andrew take it away then.
All right, thank you. So,
Check.
actually, what's that URL again? I know, Tim, you wanted to make sure that they knew it. Can you say it on the mic clearly for them?
Sure. So this is a startup that measures audience feedback throughout a presentation. And if you navigate on your phone or tablet to meet.ps/Tim, you can in real time give feedback that'll help us change direction or increase the tempo or hopefully help the presentation.
Let's make sure it works. Go to meet.ps/Tim and give me a thumbs up just to encourage me to keep going and to make sure that it's working. Oh, look at that. Thank you. All right. Tim Sullivan is the CEO and principal of MicroVentures. Tim, I had a hard time explaining to the audience what MicroVentures does. I thought we can give them an example, and you said, Andrew, I'd like to start off with an example of a company we didn't back to illustrate how we work. What's a company you didn't back, and how does that illustrate how you work?
So we worked with a company, there's more than one company, but recently a company that we were interested in funding. We went out to the people on our platform and tried to find out if they cared. A lot of people did care, in fact.
What's the platform?
MicroVentures.com.
And how does it work that you were able to go out to them and get feedback?
So the way it works is accredited investors and sophisticated investors, actually anybody can come to the platform, are vetted by our team. Once they speak with a member of our team and they validate their accredited status, they're actually able to see deals. They can see any deal that's generally solicited or a general solicitation deal, but other deals, more traditional deals, are kind of behind the wall. And so these accredited investors that have been spoken to, and I want to highlight that because it is a little bit different. We don't allow people on the platform that we don't speak to. We work pretty closely with the investors on our platform, and we work extremely closely with the companies on our platform. If somebody emails us back after they express interest in being on the platform and say, hey, I really love what you guys are doing, but I definitely don't want to talk to anybody, so stay out of my face and just keep me on the email list. It actually won't allow you to ever see our platform, so you have to have a conversation with somebody. So recently we had a company that was on the other side of the wall, and the accredited investors expressed a dramatic amount of interest in it. We liked the company, that's why we listed it to begin with. And when we went to actually do our formal diligence process, and which precurses the actual raise, we found out that the company had 3 outstanding convertible notes that once converted would dilute the founders basically down to less than 5% ownership of the company, which is not really a great investment for the most part, because you want founders to have a meaningful stake in the company that they're trying to build. And we ended up pulling the deal from the platform at that point.
I see. So what we're seeing here is that unlike other people who've been up on the stage who make the decision on their own and use money from their firm, you went to your accredited investors and you got feedback from them, and with their input and your own input, you make the decision about whether to invest or not.
Right. So the way the platform works is really there's 2 sections. There's a proposed raise section, and there's an active raise section. In the proposed section, it's basically crowd sourcing the deals. So we'll put up a number of deals that we've found from investors on the platform that they like, say they're in mobile or SaaS or cloud computing or telemedicine, something like that. And we'll do some very high-level initial due diligence on the company. We'll put it up. Investors can then indicate interest in the company. If there is enough interest indicated, again, we've got over 8,000 accredited investors on the platform, and about a little over 16,000 total investors on the platform. It becomes a situation that's kind of like the guessing the cow's weight at the county fair. That's one of the best examples. So at the county fair, if an expert if an individual tries to guess a cow's weight, they usually cannot beat the expert. But if the crowd tries to guess the cow's weight, they generally beat the expert every time. So if you look at a traditional VC who has 4 or 5 people in the room on Monday, and they bring in the people who've selected the deals, and they go through the deal and try to decide what's going to make sense, I'm pretty sure that they feel like they're the smartest guys in the room. But we don't feel that way. We don't feel like we're necessarily the smartest guys in the room, but we feel like a crowd of 8,000 or 20,000 people across the U.S. and actually around the world, because we do have a lot of European investors at this point, can help us not only make a better decision, but increase the probability of a successful outcome for that company. So,
all right, I think I've got an understanding of it. I'm going to walk over to the audience because I need to think about how you work from their perspective. How can MicroVentures help my people, my precious people in the audience here? So can I pick a startup from the audience as an example and see how they or a company like them might be able to get funded through MicroVentures?
Sure.
All right. Is there someone who wants to volunteer? We're not talking specifically about you, but I want to use you as an example. Just raise your hand if you're into. Yes, right here. I love it. I like that you also sat right up front. What's your name?
Alexander.
All right, now Alexander, what does your company do?
Crowdsourcing college experience, really.
Crowdsourcing college experience. What does that mean?
Giving empowerment to students so they can not only connect with the people in their classes, in the classroom, get better grades, but outside the classroom, get better parties.
Outside the classroom, better parties and better grades. Okay, so do you have any funding yet?
Currently, it's mainly been bootstrap and family and friends.
Okay, so Tim, if it's Alex, right? If Alex wanted to raise money and came to you, what's the process that he would go through to get funded? And let's assume that everything checks out. What's the process?
So for Alex to be successful on our platform, and it takes a company that has at least 3 fundamental things. It's a team that appears to be able to take the company to the next level. It's some traction that proves that they can execute on their business plan. It's not necessarily bottom line profits or even top line necessarily, but something that proves execution capabilities. And then a network that they have of advisors or potentially investors that also add more value than the normal, I guess, person. So if they meet those kind of high-level fundamental criteria, then they go into the proposed raise category, and then it's really up to the people on the platform, the thousands of investors, to decide whether or not. And they do this by indicating interest in the form of money.
Meaning they say, I am going to commit this money if we're all putting it in.
If this company were to raise money on your platform, I would likely invest, $10,000, for example.
Okay.
And if there is enough momentum for Alex's company, then we'll go back to Alex and say, hey, Alex, looks really good. People really like what you're doing and would like to invest in your company. We'd like to, do a deep dive on your company and do due diligence, look at your financials, do a criminal background check.
Were you a criminal ever? Never. He's clean. All right.
Speak with any partners, customers, alliances, things to make sure that his business, Alex's business, is legitimate.
Okay. So everything checks out. He's not a criminal. He's legitimate. You fund him.
At that point, it's almost a foregone conclusion that he will get funding.
Okay.
Because we've spoken to all the investors personally. We've done our due diligence. We know that the company checks out. And it's, basically funding escrow and sending Alex a check. So.
All right. And the money comes from your accredited investors, not from your firm.
It comes into a fund. So all of our investments are made through a fund, which for a company's, I think for any startup, for any company for that matter, raising money is probably the biggest pain in the butt you could do. It's not fun. So taking the friction and pain out of that process is really important and something we try to do. So as a fund investor, like a VC, he doesn't actually deal with our investors. Any questions that our investors have, any issues that our investors have, they come to us. And then if we need those questions answered, and we do answer all of our investors' questions, we'll go to Alex, but we'll do it in a way where we aggregate the questions and make it easy on him.
What about when Alex needs help? Along the way, he starts out with a great team, but he and his partner, do you have a co-founder? All right, these two guys fight, right? And they need advice about how to clear things up or separate. Who do they turn to? They can't go to all your accredited investors, can they?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What about when they need advice as entrepreneurs? For example, about how to separate their relationship if one of them needs to go. Who do they talk to? Do they have you to come to? Do they have your accredited investors to get help from?
So, I mean, specifically around separating or
around anything?
Just general advice?
I'll tell you what. One of the things that other people who I've had here on the stage have said is, if you accept funding from us, you're getting more than money. You're getting advice. You're getting relationships. You're getting support. So through you, where does that come from?
So we do offer quite a bit of support and value to the companies that list on our platform. It wasn't initially one of our intentions. It was to try to provide more frictionless capital to startups and help them raise money in an environment that has gotten increasingly difficult. But as our network has grown, we've implemented more recently a mentorship program where we go out to investors who have a background that matches up with the company that's listing and open up the opportunity for those companies to interact with those individuals. And it's up to the company. We do everything with the company's permission as opposed to necessarily asking the investor. The investors generally always want to help, but we don't want to irritate the company at all.
Got it.
All
right. I want to take another question from the audience, but first let me ask you an off-topic question that I'm not even sure is appropriate to ask, but I'm going to be looking at the ratings here to see if people agree with it. What's the URL for this? meet.ps/Tim. Thumbs it up if you think it's okay. Thumbs it down if you think I should stay away from this. Here's the thing, Tim. I was sitting next to you. You're freaking buff. I mean, you're built. And when I see someone who's built like you, I feel like that takes a lot of discipline, which as an entrepreneur and as someone who I love to run, I feel like there's no one outside of me to say, you get your work done. The discipline has to come from me. You go out for a run today. The discipline has to come from me. So where do you get your discipline? What's one way that you've been able to stay disciplined, both exercise and also in business?
Well, I think our marketing person ordered shirts that were too small, first of all. But besides that, I swim every morning at 5:30 in the morning. So
5:30. So you're not just up before most people. You're up and exercising. What do you do to stay so disciplined that you get that swim in despite all the other obligations you might have?
If I don't do it, I'll go insane.
I see. So you've just gotten to the place where you do it so often that now your brain has linked happiness to it and
Absolutely.
insanity to not. All right?
Yeah.
What about for the rest of us? We're working on our own projects. It starts to get depressing or things start to take us away. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs about staying focused, staying disciplined, and continuing?
My advice for entrepreneurs is to stay balanced, and to stay focused on your project, but also schedule in things for yourself. Make a list of 3 categories of things that you would like to do for yourself. Maybe by yourself, with your family, with your friends, and put them on the calendar and make them appointments and do them, and it'll make your life better. I guarantee it.
Any questions from the audience? And while I walk around, if I am an entrepreneur who's getting funded through you and you see me post on Facebook that I'm at Six Flags for the weekend or out drinking for Friday night, you're not going to say, that guy should be working, I'm putting my money into his business? You're going to say that's okay?
I think everybody needs to blow off steam every now and then, in whatever way they need to do it. But if I saw them, on Twitter or texting or whatever at 4 o'clock in the morning and they were drunk, multiple times in a month, I'd certainly get concerned.
Blow off steam okay, drunk tweets not okay. Do we get thumbs up on that? No, thumbs down. People want me to drink and tweet. Any questions from someone in the audience? Yes, I see one right there. Just say your name.
My name is Isha. So I'm a marketer. I'm kind of one of the anomalies here, I guess. What are your thoughts on people who are the non-techies starting up tech companies, obviously with a team, but the non-techie leading these companies or startups, investing in a company like that? Because I feel almost being here, some of the tech innovation is almost restricted to the tech people. So what are your thoughts on that? It's kind of a lot of ramble.
That's a great question. What she's saying is she's a marketer, not a developer. What are your thoughts about investment for companies that are run by people who are marketers and not developers?
I think, the person that's running the company, it doesn't matter necessarily whether they're a techie or not a techie. It matters that they're smart enough to surround themselves with people that are smarter than them, and to build good teams and to be a strong leader. So, as far as having deep technical knowledge, it can certainly be advantageous, but I don't think it's necessary.
All right, any other questions? Yeah, I'll walk right over. Oh, look at this. He brought this. So last night...
Yeah, I sold this to him last night. I sold this to him last night on a whim. He came up to me and he's like, is this vegetarian food? And I'm like, I don't know. We're at the... We're at the place, at the buffet at the party last night, and I'm like, it's ravioli. I doubt it's vegetarian food, but who knows? So I'm like, this is my product, Catapult. And
he's an entrepreneur who was walking around with this yesterday, and I took a sample, I tried it, I loved it so much that I said, can I buy it right there? And I bought it from you, and I said, can you bring some more? So thanks for bringing it over. Thanks, Sterling.
Share it with everyone if you want.
All right, I'm not sharing it with anyone. And he's got a demo booth downstairs. So Sterling brought his product with him last night. A lot of entrepreneurs are hesitant to talk about their product because they don't want to seem pushy. A lot of entrepreneurs would have said, I've got this great product, it tastes good, but I don't want to bother people. What's your feeling on that?
I think you have to get out there. I think, from a marketing perspective, a lot of companies do themselves a disservice by not spending enough time, effort, money, et cetera, on marketing early and often. If it means, you handing out samples and standing in front of, Whole Foods or whatever, then that's what you should do.
No. All right, it's great stuff. Thanks, Sterling. Anyone else have a question? Yes. By the way, they're delicious, Sterling. All right, who is it? Can you say your name first?
Hello, I'm Carlos Cardona with Getcoin.co. My question is, how do you feel about single founders?
Single founders?
Yeah.
Co-founders, or are you okay with single founders?
I don't really have a strong feeling about single versus co-founders. Founders come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I think the biggest thing to worry about with founders is as the company grows, their ability to delegate and spread the work around, as opposed to, with single founders, a lot of times what they'll end up doing is taking everything on themselves and wanting to control everything, and that's a really poor idea as far as growth. You have to be able to give things up, and again, hiring people that are smarter than you, surrounding yourself with great people, and then handing those things off so that you can accelerate and scale the business, is really important.
That got a lot of thumbs up. What's your connection with Meet.ps?
They are a launch company, and they were on stage the other day, and they approached me right before I came up here and said, can we do this?
So you're not an investor, not a longtime friend. They just had the guts to walk up to you and say, here's our new software. Will you help us out by talking about it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Nicely done, guys. If you were in the audience, new entrepreneur trying to make the most out of a launch, what would you do? How would you handle it?
I would just network as much as I could, obviously see as much of the demo companies as I could to kind of see what's out there, how they've been coached. The companies that are up there have been coached rigorously for quite a while. So, getting some tips and ideas from what they're doing on stage, I think would be important. But just, tap people on the shoulder and start conversations and learn. And I guess the most important thing is just to listen.
If they were to tap you on the shoulder and start a conversation, what's a good way for them to do it?
Just like that.
Just like that. Just, hey, Tim, I saw you with Andrew, and I want to tell you about my company.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Where is there a place for them to follow up with you afterwards? Maybe the people who I know are listening from home. What's a good way for them to connect with you?
They can certainly email me at tim@microventures.com, or I'll hang around in the back for a while, and if anybody has questions, I'm happy to.
tim@microventures.com, and how do they stand out in an inbox that I'm sure is really flooded? What's an approach that you prefer?
Saw you at launch.
Saw you at launch. That's it. All right, how about one last question, and then we'll turn the stage over, or do we have time for it? Yeah, we do. One last question from anyone. I see someone right there in the back. Was it you? All right, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Roy. So my question is, how involved is MicroVentures in the deal structuring, and do you advise the startup after the deal is structured? How much of an advisory role do you guys take?
It depends on the startup. Some of the earlier stage startups, we do actively get involved in the structuring of the round. If it's a later round, we just tack on and really have no influence whatsoever on the structure.
All right. Before we end, I'd like to...
I will say we've, over the last 2 years, completed 56 transactions, raised over $40 million for startups just from our platform alone. That doesn't include other people in the rounds. And so we've done quite a bit of structuring in that period of time. And prior to that, the team that we have has a lot of experience in structuring and managing deals, et cetera. So we can certainly add a lot of value there.
All right. Tim, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, guys.